such a thing. Look.
Hey guys, it's Godbars here, the self-proclaimed hip-hop historian, and this is the 173rd episode of my series where I grab a vinyl from my collection, talk about why I love it, what influence it has, and what its place is in the grand scheme of hip-hop. So I know I use the word overdue a decent amount on the channel, but there's a few albums I have lined up for the back end of this set, starting with this one, where I had managed to get my hands on some of my favorite 90s hip-hop releases that I'd missed up on until now. This is the first one out of that handful, and if I had had it when I started the channel, it definitely would have been in my initial set of LPs. That included the most iconic and well-known releases of that decade, like Biggie's Ready to Die, Tupac's All Eyes on Me, Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style, Nas's Illmatic, Dr. Dre's The Chronic, or Outkast's Aquemini, just to name a few. While the late Harlem legend Big L may have only had one album to come out when he was alive, it just so happens to be one of the most technically proficient releases of the entire decade, to the point it can really make your head spin. However, I hate when people disrespect Big L by trying to boil his legacy down to, oh, if he was still alive, Jay-Z wouldn't even be famous. Which isn't just nonsensical, as Jay really didn't even sound similar to Big L past his first album. But even besides that, it's a really weird and backhanded way of honoring an icon that passed away. It seems like the entire reasoning for people saying this comes down to that one Big L freestyle with Jay-Z that they did back in the day over the Milkbone Keep It Real instrumental. Didn't mean that Jay and Big L were the same artist or couldn't coexist in the genre. Either way, there's very few rappers at that time who would be able to sit next to Big L in a cypher and not get washed. One of the only ones I could think of offhand who could hang with him in terms of crazy flows and dense rhyme patterns is a fellow greatest of all time contender that we lost way too soon, Big Punisher. L was actually one of my earlier introductions to 90s boom bap, and I have distinct memories of being in middle school and constantly listening to songs like MVP, Danger Zone, or Holding It Down, which actually came off his first posthumous release, The Big Picture, which wouldn't end up dropping until 2000. That's actually another one of the few posthumous albums I make a mental exception for, as not only was L working on it before his tragic murder, but his fellow DITC members ensured it was handled with the utmost care and love humanly possible. I've discussed them in passing on the channel before, but Diggin' in the Crates crew, better known as DITC, was a supergroup that was made up of a number of legendary rappers, producers, and DJs. Outside of Big L, this included acts like Diamond D, Lord Finesse, Showbiz and AG, Fat Joe, Buckwild, and OC. While pretty much every artist in this collective has at least one or more solo classics to their name, Big L arguably sits at the very top with his 1995 debut, Lifestylez of the Poor and Dangerous. There was really nobody in the game at this time doing the type of lyrical gymnastics this dude was, and he did that on every single track he touched. And you also have to keep in mind 1995 was nowhere near a lackluster year for the genre, which some of the other noteworthy classics that came out that year, including Mobb Deep's The Infamous, Raekwon's Only Built for Cuban Links, ODB's Return to the 36 Chambers, GZA's Liquid Swords, Tupac's Me Against the World, Smith & Wesson's To Shinin', Do You Want More by The Roots, Goody Mob's Soul Food, The Dog Pound's Dog Food, East 1999 by Bone Thugs and Harmony, The Alcoholics Coast to Coast, 8-Ball and MJG's On Top of the World, 3-6 Mafia's Mystic Styles, and AZ's Do or Die. And that's still barely cracking the tip of the iceberg. And yet it's still pretty hard to find anybody who was putting together the dense type of rhyme schemes and song structures that Big L was. Though it is worth mentioning, Lord Finesse had a very similar tone and vocal range, to the point I've seen a decent amount of people mistake one for the other, especially when they're on the same track. The thing is, these guys executed their solo music very differently, and while the voices may not be especially distinguishable on their own, the way they would write and put together verses are inherently different. I think one highly influential aspect of Big L's pen and overall style as an MC is how he displayed that there's no reason you have to pick between either being slower and lyrical, or rapping at a faster pace with impressive flows. Of course, there were certain underground movements and acts that were honing in on this idea, but in terms of a mainstream big name that kept an ear to the streets, Big L showed you could be grimy, intelligent, and technically skilled all at the same time and make it look effortless to boot. I have to share some of his top-notch bars from this debut. Starting with the killer lines he brings in the project with, I've always emphasized how important it is to kick your album off on a high note, and this New York icon sure knew how to do that, giving us a stanza full of gems with, "Ayo, you better flee hubs or get your head flown 3 blocks. I'll keep rappers' hearts pumping like Reeboks. And every year I gain clout and my name sprouts. Some brothers would still be large if the crack never came out. I got the wild style, always been a foul child. My guns go poom poom and your guns go pow pow. I'm known to have a hottie open, I keep the shoddy smoking. Front and get half of the bones in your body broken. And when it comes to getting nookie, I'm not a rookie. I got girls that make that chick Tony Braxton look like Whoopi. I run with sturdy clicks, I'm never hitting dirty chicks. Got 35 bodies, buddy, don't make it 36. I have to share one more amazing set of lines. These being when he says, "Ayo, folks who quote what I wrote get choked. You better surrender before you get smoked. You people be thinking this kid is a joke. I put chumps to rest fast when my Smith West blasts, so just dash or trespass and get your chest smashed. Rap New York rules. I sport jewels and extort crews. Don't get me pissed, I got a short fuse. I go berserk when I put in work or do dirt jerk, so stay alert, no smirk, 'cause these knuckles hurt." The absolute top tier production on this thing is handled mostly by DITC members, as you might expect, like Buckwild, Showbiz, Lord Finesse, and Craig Boogie. However, when it comes to featured artists, we're given a much bigger pool of names to work with, like Kid Capri, Tara, Herb McGruff, Buddha Bless, Big Twan, Trooper J, Mike Boogie, Lord Finesse, Microphone Nut, Jay-Z, Party Artie, Granddaddy IU, and interestingly enough, we actually get the first appearance of Killa Cam, or Cameron as he'd later be known, who I believe was actually from the same block as Big L and grew up with him. For honorable mentions and favorites on this one, I'm gonna leave out MVP since it's arguably the most well-known song on here and I discussed it a decent amount, and instead I'm gonna name my top 3 favorite tracks as 8 is Enough, Danger Zone, and The Graveyard. For honorable mentions that didn't quite make the final cut, it's still more than worth shouting out songs like Put It On, Street Struck, All Black, Let 'Em Have It L, the title track, and No Ends, No Skims. Thank you for watching my 173rd video. Next time we're going back over to the West Coast to discuss one of the most forward-thinking projects to come out of 90s hip-hop period. So look for that review, and if you enjoyed, be sure to like, subscribe, and let me know what your favorite moments are off what's arguably the best one-and-done album in hip-hop. Don't forget to have a great day, and I'll see you next time, okay? Alright.
Who would do such a thing? Look, I stand in the flame of a feeling we call pain. Father's Day mug, little hand shaped the clay. Carrier planes flew overhead in pockets.